Woo. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the wasmCloud community meeting for Wednesday, July 24th. We've got a pretty action-packed demo to start off the meeting today. We're going to be talking about a couple of different utilities around the secret support in wasmCloud. We've got a new CLI. We've got another subcommand in Wash. We've got additional functionality in Wash keys. We've got WADM support for secrets. All these things you will see here in a matter of minutes. But this is really just working towards releasing all this functionality in all of our different tools, and it's looking pretty good. But I won't. I'll save that for here in a minute or two. We're going to talk a little bit about the secret support moving on to the Golang provider SDK and show a quick little code sample of what that looks like. And then we have a little bit of time that I've saved here at the end for WASI messaging 020 draft updates. There's been a lot of movement on that PR. Taylor actually is not here, but I wanted to bring up a couple of, or I just wanted to take a look and bring it to folks' attention since this is something that we have a vested interest in with wasmCloud, because right now you all would use the wasmCloud messaging interface, which is kind of the baseline for this proposal, and we'll move on to adopting the WASI interface as soon as that's landed as a part of the proposal for the WASI messaging standard. So why don't we go ahead and get started with a little bit of a demo. So if you all have been in the past couple of community meetings, you know that we are working on secret support in wasmCloud. And you may have seen me demo this secrets example from, this is working off of a branch, the latest version of this secrets example, but this example is in main now under the wasmCloud repo example security secrets. What it features is a key value counter component that uses a password for API authentication, and it uses a provider that uses a password to authenticate with Redis. And these use the wasmCloud functionality for secrets in order to actually get those values to the component and the provider without storing or transmitting them in plain text. It's all fun stuff. So in previous demos of showing this, I actually ran a script called build.sh to build all the things. And then I ran a script called run.sh to run all of the individual pieces of this example. It was like a cargo binary and a wash build. And then I added a Docker compose, but that was only part of it. And so anyways, what I want to walk through today is the updated version of this example. This is depending on a couple of tools that have not quite released yet, but they're all normal binaries or CLIs or Docker Compose examples. And so essentially, once we cut a release here, you can see that we're depending on Wash 0.30 or newer, which is not released yet. This will include the latest version of WADM and of wasmCloud and of all the Wash toolings. Then the only additional binary that you need is the secret snatskv backend. So this is a binary that you would run alongside the host, and it supports storing encrypted secrets that are in a NATS bucket. So why don't we go ahead and walk through this example. Provided you have all of the prerequisites installed, we can just run down this README instead of running through the script. I've got this essentially checked out locally on my machine, and I'm not running anything yet. So we'll run through this from scratch. So we can use wash build, first of all, to build the component and the provider. Then what we can do is launch the Docker Compose that's included for the infrastructure for this example. Now, if we look at the Docker Compose, it's actually really simple. I have Redis, which is taking in a configuration file that just contains the password that you need to authenticate with Redis. I have NATS, nothing special, 2.10 running with Jetstream. And then I have the NATS-KV secrets backend container. And this is just the binary that's running in the container. But this secrets backend requires two things when you start. I'm passing the NATS address because we're going to talk to this NATS version, this NATS container within the Docker Compose network. But all you need to do when you start this KV secrets backend is pass it an encryption key, private key, and a transit key, private seed. These are private key. These are used to encrypt secrets at rest for the encryption key when we're storing them in NATS. and it's used for encrypting secrets when you send them over the NATS message bus, when you put a secret or get a secret as a part of running wasmCloud applications. So this is just running in the Docker Compose. I have two to-dos here. This is the piece that we need to add as soon as betas are out. But once we can run Wadum and wasmCloud, I'll include them in the Docker Compose as well, so that everything can just be in this Docker Compose. So I didn't mean to highlight that. The first thing that we do is we use the wash keys functionality to generate an X key. This is like an in key, but it's used for encryption. Previously, I did this with the nkeys CLI, so you can nkgen either curve or x25519, but we actually, as a part of 0.30, are adding a wash keys gen curve utility. So this is basically just a wrapper around the nkeys functionality, but you can generate public-private key pairs for encryption. Now, this simple setup will generate those two X keys and just store them in environment variables, nice and secure, however you do that, and then launch the Docker Compose. So we'll do that. After generating the two keys, we'll launch our Docker infrastructure. You can see now that we have NATS, Redis, and the NATS KV secrets backend running. If you have the NATS CLI installed, you can take a look at what's running in here. You do, or what's contained in here. If you do NATS KVLS, we now have a secrets NATS KV state bucket and a wasmCloud example secrets default, which is the lattice bucket. This is where our secrets are actually going to be stored. So now we have a new command line utility called secrets NATS KV. This is the same binary that you would run for the actual backend itself with the run subcommand, but it also has commands for putting a secret and then adding and removing mappings, which is essentially like an allow list for a component or a provider to access a secret. So using the same transit XKey seed that we have in our environment, we're going to put 3 secrets into this secret store. The first one is our API password, which is the name of it is API password. The actual secret is a string, which is Open Sesame. The Redis password, which is a string for super secret password. And this is a default Redis password the provider can use. But this is just showing you an alternate way of actually putting the secret in the store, which uses an environment variable. So you could source this from an environment file or somewhere secret if you don't want it to be in your shell history. So now that we've put those passwords in the database, we can actually take a look in NATS KV. This isn't required for the example, but you can see our 3 secrets here. And if we actually get one of these secrets, just to show you for real, this is not the raw value, it is the encrypted value, which is encrypted using the X key that we provided it at startup. Thank you, Caroline, for linking this. I should have done that in the beginning. Okay, so now that we have our secrets in place, the only remaining thing we need to do before launching the application is provide a mapping, which allows our component or our provider to actually access these secrets at runtime. Now, this is done using the component and provider's public key, which is automatically generated and assigned to, or generated and embedded in the component and provider when you run wash build. So we'll use wash inspect to pull that public key out of the embedded claims. And then we'll add a mapping for the component to access API password, and then the provider to access Redis password and default Redis password. In the interest of security, obviously all of these are denied by default. Just to note that this is actually how the NATS KV backend does its authorization for what's allowed to access a secret or not. Other secrets backends like Vault, for example, will use something like a Vault policy and assuming a role at runtime in order to access that secret. So each secrets backend is going to do this in a different way. AWS Secrets Manager may be like an IAM role to assume, et cetera, et cetera. So now we can deploy the application, finally. Oh, no, we can't. We need to run Wadum and wasmCloud first. So I'll run Wadum, and then I'll run wasmCloud as well. The only thing necessary to pass to wasmCloud to support secrets is the topic that it's going to be requesting secrets at. which by default with the NATS-KV backend is wasmCloud.secrets. And now that Wadham is running, we can deploy the application. While that's getting all set up, why don't we take a look at this app so that you can actually see what is in the Wadham manifest now for secrets. First thing you may notice is a new policies block. This is where essentially this is part of the OAM spec to have policies in the application manifest. And this is essentially where we're going to use the WADA manifest to be able to configure infrastructure outside of wasmCloud itself. So there's additional ways that we can use this in, for example, like the Kubernetes context, but for today, all we really need to know is we can set up a policy type secrets backend. We're naming it NATS-KV. This is how we'll refer to it. This is how we'll refer to it in the rest of the manifest. And the only information we need here is that the actual secrets backend to use here for the NATS-KV policy is NATS-KV. Dan left a great comment that this is technically defined in a draft of the OAM spec, but that's okay. That's what we use. So we have the NATS-KV secret backend policy. And with our component, for example, we need to be able to pull an API password at runtime. The secret that the component is going to refer to is called API password. The policy it's going to use in order to get that, the policy in backend is going to use to pull that secret is called NATS-KV. And the key in NATS-KV is simply API password. This is tunable. The reason why these are the same is out of simplicity. But for something like Vault, you can imagine this being like a path to secret / foobar / API password. Same thing with the link from the component to the Redis provider. We have a Redis password secret, and the key in the backend is Redis password. And last but not least, same thing for the capability component, which has a default Redis password, and the key in the backend is default Redis password. So if we take a look, looks like everything has gotten set up now. We can do a wash app list. This is deployed. Now we can query our application, which I would rather focus on the secrets part. So I'll just show you the functionality. If I curl localhost 8080, I get unauthorized. If I provide a very nice password to this API @ counter, then I will be allowed to query this application. And just for posterity, you can see if I tried to get the value out of the Redis CLI, I would not be allowed because authentication is required. Okay, wow, lots of talking, but this is what you did just see is an end-to-end example of secrets in wasmCloud. We're using a secret on a components config, or a secret associated with the component, a secret associated with the provider, and a secret associated with a link. All were pulled out of the NATS-KV backend, the NATS secrets backend at runtime, and nothing was stored or transmitted in plain text. So I just want to give a huge shout out to the work on the wasmCloud team. Dan did all of the work in Wadham to support secrets in the application manifest. Lucas has been coming in and doing some testing on some additional secrets backends as we look at our API and how well it can be made to be pluggable across different backends like Vault, like OpenBow, like Kubernetes. It's really, really awesome. Jonas has done a ton of work here on the Cosmonic side. I don't even know who else to thank. There's been a lot of work that went into this. We're not quite done yet. I will just finish this off with the caveat that I am running Wadham and wasmCloud from main, so you all can replicate this on your own. And we're going to be cutting, we are going to be cutting beta releases of Wadham and wasmCloud and likely Wash a little bit later in the week so that you all can test it a little bit easier. And then from there, we should be able to cut wasmCloud 1.1. Yeah, I think the only thing that I didn't show as a part of the example is the wash secrets command. So just a heads up that the way that we are storing secret references, instructing wasmCloud how to pull a secret out of a backend is by reusing the config data bucket. So, looking in the WADA manifest, you wouldn't need to configure this on your own. But if you are using wash, for example, to put secret references manually, we have this wash secrets command with the exact same API as the config subcommand. So if we wanted to get that secret reference, we can say wash secrets get key value counter auth API password. And if we JQ that, we can see the configuration needed here. So we're pulling it out of NATS-KV. The key is API password. And the type is this versioned wasmCloud secret reference to let us work forward with backwards compatibility and all that stuff. I think that that's all that I had for the demo. We have a lot of new little utilities around secret support. Those are all going to make it into the documentation when it comes to how this works within the secrets implementation. But I really look forward to folks trying out this secrets example once we can get beta versions out for you all to try. I think it feels pretty slick when it's all said and done. The NATS-KV secrets backend is something that's built mostly as an example, but it works really, really well for, even just local development use cases. So I'm pretty proud of what the team has been able to put together here. Questions. I know that was a lot. I talked for like 20 minutes. Sorry, not sorry. Liam.
Brooks, I would just maybe chime in and thank all of the users and community contributors like Yoke and Tyler who are on the call today. Ritesh, other folks that I think have been really working closely with us in the design loop on making sure that we really pull together a wasmCloud secrets provider, and also some of the upstream folks, Luke Wagner, who leaned in and worked with Bailey and provided a lot of good feedback on the design. I think the reveal feature is, the highlight, the idea that components can leverage secrets without taking custody of them, and that we can audit, WebAssembly components that do decide to take custody of their secrets is just a really clever innovation that really raises the bar for secrets best practices in the ecosystem. So, and we're probably still leaving out a whole bunch of specific people that we should be thanking. Bailey, I don't know if there's anybody else that you would mention in the work stream that, because I know that you brought the design around and really got a lot of good feedback from folks.
Yeah, Robin influenced us on having secret types, and then I think we also got some feedback from Calvin as well. So, yeah, we are doing this in an interesting way. Like, a question you might ask is this going to be WASI secrets? And I think the TLDR is we hope it will be, but what we're doing is implementation first, finding an implementation that feels right and works really well. And once we're confident in it, which I think we are at this point, we should make a WASI proposal. And so because we knew we were feeling right about this design and getting that feedback, we're doing that early consensus building so that we can make this a standard going forward. Oh, I see a hand raised. Sorry. OSS fellow?
Oh yeah, Masood, go ahead. Maybe. Well, they might have walked away for a second. I did get a question. I got a question somewhere in Slack. Maybe it's a high. Oh, Masood, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was on mute. Maybe this has been discussed before, but when I'm running in a distributed environment, that binary, that secrets NATS-KV, that needs to be co-located with one of the hosts, or it could be anywhere as long as it has connectivity.
Yeah, great question. So since the host is just making requests to the secrets backend over NATS, it can be anywhere as long as it has connectivity over NATS. It doesn't have to be co-located right next to the host.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's a great question, especially around areas of concern where you may want to use a secrets backend with something like AWS Secrets Manager, where the easiest and or the simplest infrastructure setup there would be running the secrets backend on a machine in AWS that can just assume the role that's allowed to pull the secrets out of the secrets manager. The wasmCloud host can be running, somewhere else on the edge and actually just make those requests to the secrets backend when the component or provider or link starts.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Had one more question from Plant Bailey in the chat about how somebody would roll a secret. So all of the example that I showed, I actually didn't use versions for the secret, but when you put the secret in NATSKV, for example, no, secrets NATSKV, you actually have the option to specify a version of a secret. And in the WADM manifest, you have an opportunity or the chance to specify a version as well. So what this may look like is when you create your secret for the first time, we can call it something like, I can only think of API password and Redis password. We'll just call it password. Then we can call this password, string v1. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. And then we can assign a secret version of v1. So we'll call this version 1, secret version v1. This password is now in the NATSKV backend with a secret version of v1. In our manifest, what we can do is we can specify a secret. For the component, for example, we'll call it just password, and we'll give the key password. And we can specify a version here of v1. Now, the way that you would go from this manifest to the next version of the secret, say you needed to rotate a key or the secret expired, we can actually update this secret. So we can update the secret string to be version 2, change the secret version to v2. The important bit here is the secret version, not the actual string. This is just a simulation of a secret value. And then inside of the WADM manifest, you can update the version of your application, and then you can change the version here to v2. Now, you technically don't have to update the application in order to do this. If you were to just, where this is actually stored is, if we do the wash secrets git, for example, where this version is actually stored is here in the config data bucket. You can simply update this config with the version specifier and then restart the component. And then when the component restarts, it will pull that config and then pull down the newest version of the secret. I think it's probably better to use WADM and the upgrades feature to actually update the manifests in the secret version so that you have kind of a backwards system of record. You could deploy back to an older version of the secret if you needed to, but both of them would work. The component just fetches that secret when it starts up. Now, something that I would need to check in on is if that would update automatically for a running component. I think that's a little bit of that has potential for errors. So I'll leave that as an extra thing. But we do have support for versions in secrets, which is something that will let you roll different versions of secrets.
Cool. Thank you, Brooke. So I basically have declarative management of my secrets. That's awesome. I'll stop planting.
That's the one. I'll take plants all day. All right. Anyways, on to the next one. Do folks have any other questions here for the secret support? Alrighty. Well, thanks, folks. That that is a pretty good culmination of effort on the secret side. May run through that example one or two more times here on the community call, maybe one more time once everything is released, just to walk through the documentation and what's out there for folks to go through it. But I think we can probably put that example down for a few minutes. We can move on. Masood, go ahead.
Quick question.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about a scenario which I do have, which users need to basically store their own passwords so they're not revealed.
Mhm.
Is all this functionality is available through APIs that I can build, let's say, a front for the users to be able to manage their own passwords?
Yeah, exactly. So that binary that you saw, or that's in the secrets example, the secrets nats KV binary, is really just a small wrapper around a nats API, where you take the secret and you send it inside, you encrypt the secret and then send it in a request to the nats KV backend. So if you wanted to have some custom functionality around that, you could have users or developers give you a secret value, or tell you where to pull it from. You can do the encryption and send it to the NATS-KV backend.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find the link to that. I know I can find it. Let me show you me finding it so that everybody can find it. If you go under the crates directory and then under secrets nats KV, this is where this KV backend is located. This has an example of how to run it, and the examples that are shown in the pretty much that we walked through last time, where we can add secrets and mappings. But if you wanted to get an idea of how this is actually implemented, we have a very, here is the functionality. Nice, it all fits on one screen. It might be a little small. I'll zoom in a little bit. What we do to actually put the secret in the secrets backend is we generate a request specific X key or encryption key. So this is something that prevents replay attacks on the secrets backend. We'll insert that public key on the header in the NATS message. Then we just take the secret that you passed and we seal it or encrypt it using the transit X key, the one that we defined to be able to encrypt secrets in transit. And then the interaction with the API is right here. We use the NATS client to send a request to, in this case, it was wasmcloud.secrets.v0.natskv.putSecret. So all this is just something you can interact with over the NATS network. I will send this in chat just so if folks want to take a look at this one. All right. I had one more question from definitely not Plant Bailey around can there be multiple secrets backends? And I wanted to pull up an example here in the PR that Dan added support for the policy configuration block in WADM, because this is illustrative of what we do support. Applications can define multiple policies. I only have one here, sad. But the way that I've defined the NATS-KV policy, you can also define a secrets backend, say AWS secret config. You can specify things like an IAM role to assume. And then inside of the application itself, you can actually use any number of secrets backends within an application or within a wasmCloud lattice in order to fetch secrets. So a single application could pull, say, a less important, small, whatever secret, which could be just like potentially a username that you didn't want to be out in the open from NATS-KV. And then it could pull like an organization API token, for example, from Vault or AWS. And the only thing that needs to change is in your WADM manifest, you just need to specify essentially what secrets backend to pass. And then you can use that in order to pull those secrets at runtime. The only thing that actually changes, and this is pretty wild, is where can I find this? No, go back to wasmCloud. Well, the only thing that actually changes when you change the secrets backend is the topic or the subject that wasmCloud is sending the request to pull the secret out of the backend. So the nats.kv backend is listening on a topic that includes, nats-kv. The Vault secrets backend would subscribe to a topic with Vault. So you just need to run the relevant secrets backend, and then the host can make requests to any number of those.
Okay, so if I were making an application like the one in the last example, where my application lets my users manage their own secrets, I could have a user's backend, and I can also have my own application backend at the same time for the same app. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. I love that use case. Awesome. Well, I'm really excited for you all to try this feature out. I think it came together really, really well, and I will surely drop messages in the wasmCloud Slack as soon as it's available for like a Wash or a Wadum and wasmCloud beta that you all can try out. So please, once that drops, let us know how it looks. Let us know how the developer experience feels around working with secrets, and from there, we'll get 1.1 out the door and then go from there on the rest of the exciting stuff that's on the Q3 roadmap. I wanted to just touch in really quick on, or just moving forward, happy to take more questions there. We can just talk a little bit more about secrets in the end if there are any. I wanted to talk about the Golang provider SDK, because as a part of the updates in the main wasmCloud repo, we had to update the capability provider SDK in Rust to support secrets. And this is actually all done in a backwards compatible way, the way that we've designed wasmCloud 1.1. Providers will be able to work with newer versions of the wasmCloud host, and the secrets fields, which are going to be included either on the startup config for a provider or the secrets field on a link. Only those fields are the bytes that are encrypted. So if you're running an older version of a provider that doesn't know anything about secrets, it's just not going to have any idea that field exists. And in the host, we're actually going to catch that before we try to send the secret out anyways, just to avoid any issues. But the TLDR there is that bringing a provider that doesn't know anything about the secret support that we've added forward, as long as you don't try to give it a secret, will be no issue. So all of that should go forward just fine. Our capability providers that we have in Rust, we're going to be updating to support secrets. So specifically the ones that I can think of the top of my head, the Postgres provider, which requires like a connection string or a password, that provider will be updated to use a secret for the password value itself. So we're going to get rid of all of our any of our plain text configuration secrets in our first party providers. Okay, so speaking of, now that we got that out of the way, the Golang provider needed to update as well in order to support secrets. And that actually just landed earlier today. Nope, 4 hours ago. Yes, earlier today, 4 hours ago. The Golang provider SDK now supports the same options and features as the Rust provider SDK when it comes to secrets. This ended up being a little bit more work on the provider SDK side than I thought. But the end result, specifically just around something around unmarshalling JSON and all that fun Go stuff, but all of that is done in the back end. We're doing the same thing as the Rust provider SDK, where the secrets are passed to the provider encrypted using a key that only that provider and the host knows about. And then we're actually going to decrypt that into a map of string to secret value. And what this actually looks like, I don't know if everybody knows, but we've been working with the Couchbase team in order to build a capability provider for wasmCloud that wraps one of their SDKs. So if you're looking for Couchbase support in wasmCloud, this is a great place to look. I went through and updated this capability provider to support the new secrets example for the password that you needed to authenticate with the Couchbase cluster. And what this actually looks like, I had to change a few things in this, but in the main function for this provider, let me do the other view because it's kind of hard to see like that. In the main function of this provider, when we are connecting or when we're receiving a link, we call this function validate Couchbase config with the secrets that are present on the link. And that function simply takes a look in the secrets map to find the password secret, and then uses this little wrapper that I have in the provider SDK where you can't accidentally log a secret, but you just reveal it, you get the inner string, and then we assign that password to the connection args. So in Go, the actual usage of secrets feels really, really simple. You basically do an update, and now all of your links contain this secrets field that you, or the source and target secrets field. So there really isn't that much work to do on the capability provider side, whether you're on Go or Rust. But speaking of, we will provide some release notes as we drop a new version of the provider SDK in Go and in Rust. And we are going to be updating our wasmCloud providers. So we'll be able to see firsthand what kinds of changes we need to make. But as long as I'm not misremembering, we've essentially done them, all the changes in the provider SDKs in a backwards compatible way. So you should just be able to update to the new version and then take advantage of the secrets there if you like. All right. So I just wanted to give a quick update on the Golang side of things. We are keeping up with the updates there on the provider SDK, which is nice to keep that all in parity. The next big thing for secret support, I mentioned getting beta releases out, is documentation. So we've got some draft setups for the secrets documentation. And I think what's really important, in addition to how it actually works, is how to use it. And the couple examples should serve as a good reference for how to use it. But I want to make sure that I detail, that we can get detailed what the specific keys are for, how you can use multiple, all the questions that came out of this community meeting, basically, how it works. Any questions on the Golang provider SDK side for secrets? Alrighty, then I think we can go ahead and move on to the last piece of the agenda. Now, I do have a discussion item here to talk about WASI messaging 020 draft updates. Don't click on this yet. This thinks it's, I don't know if you can see it in the bottom left, that Chrome or Arc or whatever is assuming that this is an email. So, I mean, it's not going to do anything bad, but it's going to try to send an email to WASI messaging add 020 draft. I put in a PR to fix it. But the real thing that you want is here, which is in the WebAssembly WASI messaging repo. I'll send that in the chat. I just wanted to note that there was a lot of, there's been a lot of back and forth here on the actual interface itself. I'm sure that Taylor would have a couple of things that he would like to say around the functionality in the interface, but just want to know that this is getting much, much closer to actually merging in as the interface. And I wanted to bring up a discussion item actually that just came up before this call started around, we were talking about WASI HTTP, but around the request interface for a messaging interface. Now, Colin, I don't know if you're still here, but we were talking a little bit about how it'd be really nice for HTTP messaging, if you're replying to a message or you're sending back an HTTP response, there is definitely a use case to continue doing some kind of processing in the component as a part of your business logic, like logging or sending another message or something like that. Colin, where did this come up with for you? You were going to send back an HTTP response and then, maybe keep doing a little bit extra work.
So, sure. I can talk about this. So one of the big things with working on with edge compute, right, is we want to, like one of the really good use cases is narrowing down or reducing the network traffic, right? So if we receive a request, we'd want to send that response right away, because that's another good thing about the edge is the low latency. So you want to take it, you don't want to waste that. So sending response as soon as possible back to the client, but then if there's some sort of additional processing or messaging or key value storage that needs to happen, to have that be later. And so the good thing with the change from the old model to the WIT-based HTTP server, or any handler, is that you don't return you don't return with the response from the function. So you can set the response and then continue to do whatever needs to be done. So yes, I learned that an hour ago. So
Yeah, it seems like a
less.
trade-off, right? Like here's an HTTP request, just give me back the response whenever you're done is simple, but it doesn't cover that like early act case where you can respond and say like, got it, don't worry about it, see you later.
Yeah. Well, it would have been tricky otherwise. I mean, otherwise you'd have to Dan and I talked about this. But like, well, you could put it on a message, send a message, and then have another component handle that message through a kind of a provider, like using NATS messaging. But this is simpler. Yeah, I don't know. That was really it for that. I don't really want to turn this into a rant. So.
No, it's totally fine. I think that was all that I really wanted to say about the WASI messaging piece. Taylor on our side has been championing that proposal. That's a word. So sad that he could not quite make it here today to talk about it. But I didn't have anything specifically that I wanted to share about it. I just wanted to keep it on folks' roadmap or keep it in their brain space as an interface that is coming soon to wasmCloud. We're going to keep wasmCloud messaging all the way through 2.0 at least, but we'll adopt WASI messaging as that drops with 0.2.0 draft. Same with key value and things like that. All right. Well, I think that's all I had on the. Oh, sorry, OSS fellow.
Okay. Actually, it's not directly related to the WASI messaging, although it's related. I have said once I've done my commitments for the the new quarter. I'm going to start working on the WASI blob store for wasmCloud. But in general, because these specifications keep rolling out, maybe in the roadmap planning, it's a good idea to also put some targets around when we think we want to have support in wasmCloud for a particular specification in terms of a capability provider, so we can better manage the scheduling and the work of and users can have some some ideas about when they can expect something to become available on the platform.
Yeah, so I think that on the roadmap side, we've kept it pretty granular on purpose because work demands change and getting out specific features by a specific date can be dicey, especially in open source where everybody who's contributing has a different schedule. On your side, on the wasmCloud or on the WASI blob store side, I assume that you're working on that to do like a NATS object store. Let me know if I'm assuming incorrectly.
That is correct.
Okay.
If NATS is available, in my opinion, whatever can be implemented on NATS, we should have on NATS, and then later other things could be added on top.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that sounds great. And, you know, like you said, we have NATS Jetstream available. Your work on the key value provider for NATS is already showing it's such a sweet capability provider. We might as well use it for all kinds of first-party capabilities. So Masood, I'm sorry, I got a little lost. I don't think I answered your original question. Would you mind just asking it one more time?
No, I was saying that we, in roadmap planning, we do not put capability providers on the roadmap.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
maybe in order to kind of give users ideas about when they might, be able to get their hands on a wasmCloud implementation of a capability provider or a specification, it might be a good idea to also include such capabilities as part of the roadmap planning.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. I think that, adding the for WASI messaging, for example, once WASI messaging lands, timeline on being able to use a WASI messaging provider in the WASI Cloud context is something that should definitely go on our roadmap. Um, as we take a look at, you're working on the WASI Blob Store provider for NATS. When it comes to first party capability providers, especially new capabilities where we're adding functionality that you didn't have in wasmCloud before, we definitely should keep that on our roadmap. Bailey, I know you came off for a second. Is there anything else you wanted to say on that?
I thought it was a great idea, and we totally should. I think, there's actually multiple parallel paths here, right? There's the getting a provider implemented for a given API, and there's also the path for that API itself, right? A lot of our APIs now, the way that that's going to work is we're going to create an RFC inside wasmCloud. We're going to, of the interface, it's going to be a wasmCloud : interface. We will grow it, we will implement it, we'll get lots of feedback, and once we feel great about it, then it'll go on a WASI path. So I think another thing that might be helpful is to bucket when we think certain WASI APIs we're aiming to target as well. Because there's definitely we roadmap the wasmCloud side of things. But right now, there's also this other, the WASI subgroup that works within the W3C that I happen to co-chair. It's hard for anybody outside right now to get a read on who's interacting with it and where are the implementations and that sort of thing. So if I had a place inside wasmCloud that I could point to from the WASI side to be like, you want to see an implementation? Here's the roadmap and when people are, can expect to see it. That would be really cool and helpful.
I love that idea too. Um, I don't think we've taken a hard stance. Speaking of, I might as well share it. I don't think we've really talked about bringing on extra items onto a roadmap after the fact. The Q2 roadmap we kind of brainstormed and worked through, and taking a look at where we are with the Q3 roadmap. We've already gotten some. This should be ready for work. All right, I got distracted. We've already gotten a couple issues across the line here and completed, some from community members too, or maybe even first-time contributors, which is great. We've got some work in progress. I think we're making really great progress forward so far in Q3, and we're actually almost done with closing out the Q2 2024 roadmap as well. Secrets is one of the last things that comes in here, and then provider configuration updates at runtime may or may not move on to the next milestone anyways. We haven't really talked about bringing on items after the fact. I don't really feel any necessary loyalty to saying, no, this is our roadmap, because I think that the only difference, as we can see from the evidence from last quarter, is like whether or not we put it on this roadmap is it's not whether or not it gets done, it's just whether or not it's a PR that gets done and then merged in and then it's finished. So, different category, I don't really feel that dedicated to calling it out that way. I think we should kind of feel free to pull additional things onto this roadmap. with the caveat that I think maybe at the end of this quarter, we should take a look and see if there's anything that, if there's a certain amount of issues that consistently seem to roll from one roadmap to the next. And we just want to make sure that we're not getting ourselves into the trap of accepting new work when we have enough work that we've already planned to do. But yeah, Masood, once there is an issue open, perhaps for like a WASI, for a WASI blob store implementation with Nats object store, I think that totally makes sense for us to have on the wasmCloud first party side, or at the very least as a provider that we refer to as a provider that we refer to as a great compatibility with wasmCloud. But yeah, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah. So when we say the quarter, are we talking about the calendar quarter, meaning that this one is going to be end of September?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. If it's end of September, then I open the issue for the blob store. I haven't started working on blob store because I was waiting for the 1.1 release.
Mhm.
The custom provider that I have, which is a community provider, that is also waiting for that because I want to release that to the community to use. That's for managing buckets. I have 2 tickets here that I'm going to do. So I'm going to finish these first, but I'm going to create the issue for that because I'm sure that by end of September, I would be able to do them all, if not sooner.
Okay. Yeah, then then we can get an issue open for that. And then, this is something that I feel passionate about working in open source. I know that a lot of people who are contributing here in their free time and out of their own passion. So the only thing that I hesitate about throwing something like this on a strict roadmap is I don't want to have to hold you to a deadline. That's not anything that I want to that's not anything that I want to put pressure on folks who are contributing in their free time. So as long as we can, I'm happy to throw it on here if you think you'll have it done by September, but I don't want any pressure there.
Yeah.
But we can talk about that offline. We had just a couple more minutes, so I wanted to make sure we got through the last little bit of the call, if that's okay.
Sure.
All right. One thing that I did not put in the agenda for today, but we have been doing, and I don't want to lose track of it, is a documentation page of the week. This week, I want to talk about the capability catalog, which is a new page in our docs. Go ahead and throw it here in the chat. What we noticed was it can be kind of hard to look at wasmCloud as a project and think, I'm writing an application with wasmCloud. What do I have access to use in terms of like application level primitives to get my business logic to work, right? And voila, here comes the capability catalog page. So this talks very high level about the capabilities that wasmCloud has available for folks in terms of the WIT interface or the WIT worlds that are available. So blob storage, clocks, HTTP client and server, and then the implementations for capability providers that we have and know about that you can use in order to make your wasmCloud application. We also have the Couchbase provider here in the third-party capability section. The difference between these two is wasmCloud capabilities are going to be capabilities or providers that we have, kind of in tree. They are maintained by the wasmCloud team and or contributors. And the third-party capabilities are going to be something that are maintained essentially externally. I've seen a very similar documentation page on the Nomad documentation for, I'm forgetting the thing that they call it, but it's like their, it's not third party, it's called something else, like community supported task drivers. There we go. Came to my brain because I stumbled for long enough. But this is something that I think is going to be really important for just like I'm starting a new application. Let me hit this page and see what I have available. I would love to extend this third-party capabilities way down the page. So if you're working on custom capabilities for wasmCloud, you're using the support that we have for custom interface functions with WRPC, please let us know, or even just put in a PR. You can actually just click edit this page at the bottom and add your own thing in. We'd be happy to link to additional capabilities that people can make use of. That was part of the big reason why we designed it, to support custom capabilities. So that is, I think that's all that I had for today. I did not pick out an issue of the week, a good first issue of the week, but there are some new ones in the wasmCloud and Wadum repos if you're looking to contribute for the first time. So I would recommend taking a look, sorting by good first issue. And I think that runs us kind of right up to time. So maybe, nope, I think that's it. I was going to say maybe if folks have other questions, but we're at the end here. This is a good stopping point. All right. Anyways, thanks everybody for coming to the community meeting today. Really appreciated you listening to me as I demo some stuff, but I will put some updates into the wasmCloud Slack as soon as we've got some beta versions of Wash, Wadum, wasmCloud available for you to test with. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, donate to our Patreon, all that good stuff. Just kidding. Thanks, everybody.